So, this video is going to be about me defending Thanos. About why his plan did make sense, and from an economic standpoint, it did at least make sense from what he was trying to go for, and the misunderstandings around his character. While I'm not going to defend every aspect of his character, and while we could talk about the ethical side of killing half the population of the whole universe, that's not really what I'm here to do. And while, yeah, you could see it as clearly evil, which I'll explain in a sec, I want to explain and make this as clear as possible. I somewhat agree with Thanos and what he is. It's just that people have made stupid excuses to say he's entirely wrong when he's obviously not.
And living souls. Thanos wants them because when combined and harnessed, they will make him an all-powerful god. And finally, in Avengers Infinity War, he succeeds and can now execute his horrifying plan with a literal snap of his fingers. Here's the thing. Murdering trillions of people in an instant is clearly evil. I don't really think I need to explain that to anybody. The film does a pretty good job of rejecting Thanos' plan on those grounds.
I'm a survivor.
Who wants to murder trillions?
Where people seem to run into more trouble and get confused is that Thanos' stated motivation in the film is actually a somewhat popular but exceptionally dangerous idea that many people believe in real life. In a key scene, the Mad Titan lays out his reasoning.
Little one, it's a simple calculus. This universe is finite, its resources finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that. At least I'm the only one with the will to act on it.
Thanos believes that the universe is overpopulated. There are too many people and not enough resources to go around. Now, real quick, for the sake of this video, we're just going to ignore the question of why Thanos wouldn't just make double the resources if he was all-powerful. He's an evil comic book villain, so I guess that doesn't occur to him. Instead, he believes that if he eliminates half the population, then everyone remaining will be better off. And if you don't think about it very much, the idea that the universe would be overpopulated sounds like it might be true. And as scary as this is, there are many people who agree with Thanos that there are too many people on Earth. As far back as 1798, Thomas Robert Malthus published a paper called An Essay on the Principle of Population, in which he, like Thanos, argued that the future of an unchecked population was bleak. To quote Malthus, "The power of population is so superior to the power of the earth to produce subsistence for man, that premature death must in some shape or other visit the human race." Sound familiar?
Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Now, let's address the double the resources argument, because this just wouldn't work for a variety of reasons. One, resources in general are just so vague you can count literally everything as a resource. Water, fire, furniture, iron, and just everything all above. If he just doubled the resources, how in theory would he do it? And I don't even know, how to even comprehend the concept of doubling the resources. So, wouldn't just the entire ocean double in length and flood the whole Earth because, that's doubling half the resources? That sounds like a really smart idea. But if you do that, it just won't work. Because it also doesn't even represent Thanos' main plan, because another issue he had was that people didn't respect the resources they had to actually care about them. So, in a way, he's more like an extremist environmentalist who wants the best for the environment, and because he wants the best for everyone else. And so the plan was that Thanos would wipe half the population in half with a snap. Then he would, and then it would cause a massive economic crash, which would obviously traumatize people. And if you want to hear something, the economy crashed after 9/11 happened because of how insane that was. So if you have literally 4 billion people just wiped out in one snap, that would damage the economy irreversibly. It would wreck everything so badly that companies would basically go out of business, and it would wreck the economy all over the world. Yes, you could argue that it is a bad thing, but the point is that it's meant to make people be so scared that they never want to, like, they never want to, have that happen to them again. It's just so messed up that you can't even comprehend it. Like, do I need to explain what's wrong with this? Like, obviously that was the point of Thanos' plan, and you didn't even represent it, nor a part of his philosophy of what he's trying to do. And and so then eventually people would learn to respect more the environment, and since companies would also crash, that would lead to endangered species and environments skyrocketing populations, and plus it would also lead to the governments maybe making more environmental changes so they don't have something this catastrophic happen again. Because that was the point. He basically wanted to he's essentially like Pain from Naruto, where he basically wants to make a weapon so destructive that it destroys everything around, and destroys people's will, and it traumatizes them so badly that they never want to do it again, which was the point of Thanos' plan. And if he just doubled half the resources, let's say he just even then didn't literally double it, but let's say some kind of infinite resource generator machine or whatever on every planet, Thanos couldn't really that wouldn't be far-fetched for a company or some nation to go around and abuse that, and then that would create an even bigger economic gap. And it could just lead to a whole different issue altogether, which would affect tons of other nations. And again, so if you doubled half, if Thanos doubled half the resources, it really wouldn't work, because even if he literally did, assuming ignoring all the issues and all the consequences that would cause social-wise, it would just make the population double over time, and it really wouldn't change anything, and it would be a way more short-term problem. And while you could make the argument that Thanos' original plan in universe is short-term, which it isn't, at least it's way more long-term, which could last way longer ever than that plan. It just wouldn't work, and it's completely stupid.
Everyone remaining will be better off. And if you don't think about it very much, the idea that the universe would be overpopulated sounds like it might be true. And as scary as this is, there are many people who agree with Thanos that there are too many people on Earth. As far back as 1798, Thomas Robert Malthus published a paper called An Essay on the Principle of Population, in which he, like Thanos, argued that the future of an unchecked population was bleak. To quote Malthus, "The power of population is so superior to the power of the earth to produce subsistence for man, that premature death must in some shape or other visit the human race." Sound familiar?
Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Malthus believed that human vices, murder, disease, and even warfare were all holding back an even greater catastrophe. In the same essay, he predicted that if population increased at a constant rate, the world would add 1 billion people every 25 years. If he had been right, there would be about 10 billion people in the world by now, though there are only 7.6 billion, and more of us would be dying of starvation every single day. Malthus wasn't right, but his ideas caught on. Flash forward to 1968, when Stanford University biology professor Paul Ehrlich and his wife Anne wrote another extremely influential book called The Population Bomb. Like Malthus and Thanos, they argued that without a dramatic reduction in the global population, there would be mass starvation. Ehrlich writes, quote, "The battle to feed all of humanity is over. In the 1970s, hundreds of millions of people will starve to death in spite of any crash programs embarked upon now. At this late date, nothing can prevent a substantial increase in the world death rate." But his prediction didn't happen. Yet, in spite of being completely wrong, Paul Ehrlich clung to his beliefs. He was so certain that in 1980 he accepted a wager with University of Maryland business professor Julian Simon. Simon challenged Ehrlich to pick any basket of raw materials he wished, and a time period of over 1 year, and bet that those resources would be cheaper in inflation-adjusted terms over that time period. Ehrlich chose copper, chromium, nickel, tin, and tungsten, and a period of 10 years. When the bet expired in October 1990, Ehrlich was wrong on all counts. Every commodity he chose was more available and cheaper than it was when he made the bet. And that was in spite of the largest growth in population of any decade in history. So, what happened? Well, like Thanos, Malthus and Ehrlich misunderstood both the nature of natural resources and the origin of material prosperity.
I'm pretty sure Titan was probably like a more long-term decline. Like, I don't think Thanos literally means that it will eventually happen, but like, we're right now going through a boom, like, in a sense, a boom in population because of this. And obviously, yeah, these philosophers back in the day were wrong on their accounts, but there's only so much the Earth can offer is kind of the in general point. Because you don't really bring up Thanos' main argument. Because eventually there's going to be mouths to feed and population is just going to keep on increasing until eventually there'll be no more food left. It has to keep on going up eventually until there's no more resources left in a way.
Contrary to what they believe, economies are not zero-sum. Wealth is not something that just exists in the world inherently and then has to be divided up between people competing for whatever's available. Instead, wealth is a creation of human ingenuity and expands with every new valuable innovation. The more we are able to specialize and trade freely with other people, the faster those innovations build off of each other to raise people's standard of living. Likewise, what we call natural resources, while finite in a technical sense, are mainly limited by our imagination and understanding of how to use them. 150 years ago, crude oil was found all over the world, but nobody knew what to do with it, so we just thought of it as useless black goo. We burned cow dung and killed whales to heat and light our homes. New technology will eventually replace oil and could easily be based on new resources no one dreamed of a generation ago. Always remember that more people doesn't just mean more mouths to feed. It also means more minds to create and more hands to build. As long as people are free to be entrepreneurial and explore new ideas, in a context where other people are also free to decide for themselves which innovations are valuable to them, then wealth will increase. And that's exactly what's happened in the real world, wherever there are private property rights, low barriers to entrepreneurship, and free trade. The global population is now over 7 times what it was when Malthus wrote his essay. And yet, in the last 30 years alone, we have cut extreme poverty in half. Fewer people are dying of starvation today than ever. Per capita incomes are higher. Child labor is down. It turns out that the main problem was never that the world was overpopulated, but that its people were never free enough to create wealth. And when they did create something new and valuable, they weren't allowed to keep it. Most of history is a story of authoritarian top-down control, power struggles, and war. Rulers like Thanos use violence to amass power and impose their own vision on society by force. In Avengers Infinity War, Thanos claims that his own world was ravaged by poverty, and that committing genocide against half the population would have solved the problem. Now that he has all the power in the universe, he is ready to do the same on an epic scale. Tragically, the movie itself doesn't actually offer much of a counter-argument to Thanos' mistaken ideas, only a rejection of his evil methods. This is a shame. Both are wrong, but while everybody already recognizes that genocide is bad, there are still tons of people out there who believe he's right about everything else. He's not. What the world and the universe needs is more wealth and more freedom, not fewer people.
But you just said earlier that the movie does do a good job with rejecting Thanos' methods and everything he's doing. About how much, like with Strange wanting to kill the population. That's what you were just bringing up. And again, like, you're not addressing Thanos' main argument. And plus, this is the main issue with this video. It's that you're only addressing what will short-termly happen, because eventually, there isn't an infinite amount of knowledge on our Earth. There's only so much we can do with our resources that eventually there will lead to probably mass starvation over this. It's just that we are nowhere near there for Thanos to for Thanos to actually see Thanos' point yet. And plus, again, as I was already explained, the issue was that people don't respect it. So the point was that Thanos was again going to cause a massive economical collapse so that everyone would eventually understand what Thanos was saying the whole time, and they can come to an acceptance about the fact that they didn't treat their planet correctly. And we still don't, we don't treat our planet correctly. Like, for example, we dump thousands of trash in the ocean every year. And we genuinely are careless about tons of stuff. We don't really care about any of it. We don't, a lot of people don't care about being healthy. And more often than not, companies are often abusive and usually don't actually do a good job regulating themselves. Why do you think there are so many chemicals in our food? Why do you think America has such an issue with its chemical foods and how bad it is? It's because companies constantly lobby for this stuff. And so with stuff like the companies which only do stuff for a short-term profit, eventually everything's just going to crash. And that's the entire point. You're just talking about what's currently going on when there was likely more of a complex factor on Titan. Because keep in mind, Titan's way more advanced than us, so they probably have thousands of more history until eventually it collapsed due to an unknown reason. As it was always really vague about what Thanos was talking about. And that's my main issue. This isn't what Thanos really wanted, and another main issue with people misrepresenting Thanos' plan in the first place. He wanted people to respect the resources we had because we only have so much of it. If you can't respect the resources you have, then you will never respect the planet you are standing on. That is the main issue. That was Thanos' goal in the first place, and you barely represented it well. And you never even technically brought up his arguments. Instead, strawmanned and brought up arguments that have already been debunked and used to death. Like, can we seriously stop with the double the resources thing and Thanos was wrong? Like, I can understand why people could dislike him for doing well, technically, it's mass murder because he's trying to cut the population in half. It's not genocide. Because genocide would be like targeting a specific group when Thanos is just indiscriminately targeting half of the universe. That is what Thanos is doing. That was what he was doing in the first place. And while I don't agree with his way of going about it, I do see his point.